In the late 80s and early 90s, Capcom gave us an unusually great combination, the NES and Disney cartoons. When they announced the Disney Afternoon Collection for Xbox One, PS4, and PC, I knew it probably needed to be a day one purchase for me when it originally released back in 2017, especially considering the cost of some of the original cartridges in the collection. As of the time of making this video, according to PriceCharting.com's lot calculator, the loose cartridge value of the games included here sits at almost $500 total, which I think for most collectors is a pretty sizable investment. While some time has passed since the collection was released, I thought it might be interesting to take a look back at some of the things I didn't dig into when the bundle originally came out. Developer Digital Eclipse has a habit of not only doing a great job bringing classic games to modern platforms, like we saw with the original Mega Man Legacy Collection, but also going above and beyond with some interesting museum-style features as well. This review will focus less on the details of each game and more so on the collection as a whole and some of the value you'll find here. Let's jump in and take a look. The first thing I think the bundle does well is that it not only has save states, but it has a rewind feature as well. A lot of retro games can be rough by today's standards, so it's nice to see these added to make the games more enjoyable for those who might not be interested in the original challenge of each game. The only downside here is that each game only allows you to have one save state at a time, meaning you can't make individual saves at the beginning of different levels for something like easily loading up different sections of a game to practice speedrunning or something. Which brings me to the next thing I think the collection does well, and that's the time attack and boss rush modes. The time attack mode disables the rewind and save state features and tracks the player's times for them through each section of the game. While this feature is nice in and of itself, Digital Eclipse went above and beyond here and added not only a leaderboard, but the ability to watch the runs of the players on the leaderboard and actually race them as well if players want to. This is an awesome feature that can really help anyone interested in speedrunning get a grip on how players are able to get such fast times in each game. The boss rush mode has the same features as the time attack mode, but as the name of the mode implies, the player is only trying to speedrun the bosses in each given game. While these modes aren't necessarily mind-blowing in any way, it's really nice to see them in the collection to give players some variety beyond simply playing the original vanilla versions of each game. The next thing that I think the collection does well is that it actually has a built-in how to play feature. A lot of retro games expected the player to read the manual to help them sort through the random information about the game. Digital Eclipse has done a really good job here explaining not only the controls of each game, but also explains things like the items, enemies, and levels as well. Each game's manual is a bit different, so I'm not sure if they only took the information present in the original manuals or what, but either way, it's a really nice feature. The next thing I'd like to touch on is the video options. The collection includes a TV and a monitor filter for a more old school look, and there's also the option to change the aspect ratio as desired from original to 4:3 to a stretched 16:9 if black bars aren't your thing. However, if black bars actually aren't your thing, there's also the option to turn on borders as well, which change based on whatever game you're playing. None of these options are revolutionary in any way, but they're really nice quality of life features that help make this bundle more enjoyable for everyone, no matter how they want to look at these old games. The last thing I think the collection does well is that it includes some really nice bonus features. This includes things like being able to listen to the soundtrack of each game and a bunch of galleries of beautiful artwork. The galleries included are separated into 4 categories: pencil to pixel, original artwork, museum, and odds and ends. Not only do they have a ton of great artwork, but there's also captions for a lot of the art explaining what the various pieces are. Again, it's not exactly a revolutionary feature, but the galleries really make this collection feel like something special, rather than a simple collection of NES ports. Overall, there's a lot to love in this collection, and you can really see the care that was put into making sure that these games are brought into the modern era in a truly great way. While the collection does a lot of things really well, there are a few things that I think are lacking and would have helped take it over the top and make it even better than it already is. The first thing I think the collection didn't do so well was simply a lack of online play. With things like the Nintendo Switch Online service and the Kunio-kun Retro Brawler bundle having online play, it's always just a nice feature to have for when your friends can't come over. While I certainly understand that a collection like this is pretty niche, and the resources to develop online play might not have been there, I can't help but feel like it's the main feature lacking in the collection. The next feature that I would have liked to see here is something like we saw with the Contra collection and the Aladdin and Lion King collection, and that's alternate versions of the games. While there may have been some logistical stuff here that made it impossible, it would have been great if we'd gotten the Game Boy versions of each game or something like that. I would have also loved to see some sort of challenge mode like the Mega Man Legacy Collection included to add some fun replay value. Maybe it's not a fair knock against the collection, but since we've seen some of these features elsewhere, I can't help but wish we saw them here. My final point about what the collection didn't do so well was actually one of my favorite features from the Kunio-kun Retro Brawler bundle, and that's some sort of quality up version of each game. These games are all ports that emulate the original hardware with slowdown and all. And while I'm a fan of having the games preserved with their original hardware limitations, I would have enjoyed seeing them running in a more optimized way. I understand this might not be as straightforward as adding something like a boss rush mode, but I think optimizing the games to run perfectly might have been a nice final touch on an already fantastic collection of games. Overall, I don't think there's much this collection doesn't deliver on, just a few missed opportunities that would have made it close to perfect. So, is the Disney Afternoon Collection worth it at the full price of $20? The collection includes some really great games and some pretty nice bonus features, not to mention how expensive some of the original cartridges are. With that being said, I'd have to say the collection is definitely worth it at $20. Not only is it worth it, but since it's a bit older at this point, you can probably find a pretty good sale on it if you're patient. It's also a really great way to add things like DuckTales 2 and Rescue Rangers 2 to your collection if you're curious about those games, but simply can't bring yourself to spend the absurd amount of money that those games go for. Guys, that is going to wrap it up for this video. If you're looking for more retro game content, please check out the Worth It or Worthless podcast, where we take a deep dive into a retro game from my own personal collection every couple of weeks. The link will be in the description. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one.